Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining this session. My name is Sana Anas, and I'm delighted to welcome you to this workshop on prompt engineering for project managers. Over the course of this presentation, we will explore how to communicate more effectively with artificial intelligence tools, a skill that is rapidly becoming essential in our profession. Whether you are already using AI in your daily workflows or are just beginning to explore its potential, the frameworks and techniques we discuss today will help you to extract significantly greater value from these tools. Let us begin. Allow me to provide a brief overview of our agenda. We will begin by examining what I call the AI communication gap. The disconnect between how project managers typically interact with AI and what these tools actually require to deliver high quality output. From there, we will introduce the CRAFT framework, a structured five-part approach to writing effective prompts that you can apply immediately. We will then walk through several real-world project management use cases, including status reports, risk assessments, and stakeholder communications. For those of you who are looking to deepen your expertise, we will explore advanced techniques such as chain of thought prompting and few short examples. Finally, we will conclude with a quick reference guide that you can take back to your desk and begin using today. Before we dive into the how, let's take a moment to understand the why. The data here tells a compelling story. According to recent research from McKinsey and Gartner, 73% of project managers are now incorporating AI tools into their daily workflows. This is no longer a niche practice. It is the new standard. However, here is the critical insight. There is a five-fold productivity difference between those who prompt effectively and those who do not. That is not a marginal improvement. It is a transformational gap. Furthermore, 40% of AI-generated outputs require rework, and in most cases, that rework stems from a limitation of the AI itself, but from vague or poorly structured instructions. The implication is clear. Learning to communicate effectively with AI is one of the highest leverage skills a project manager can develop today. So this slide illustrates the fundamental challenge we face. On the left, you can see how most project managers typically interact with AI. With brief, unstructured requests such as write me a status report or summarize this project. On the right, you can see what AI tools actually need to produce quality output. Specific context about your project, clarity about your role and audience, a well-defined action, a desired output format, and guidance on tone and style. The gap between these two columns is where quality breaks down. When we provide vague instructions, AI has no choice but to fill in the blanks with assumptions. And those assumptions rarely align with our intent. The good news is that bringing this gap does not require technical expertise. It requires structured communication, which is a skill that we as project managers already possess. We simply need a framework to apply it consistently. So, what exactly is prompt engineering? I want to address three common misconceptions. First, prompt engineering is not coding. You don't need programming skills or technical background. It is at its core structured communication, the art of being precise and deliberate in your instructions. As project managers, we do this every day when we write requirements, draft briefs, or scope deliverables. Second, it is not a one size fits all approach. Different tasks, a risk assessment versus a status report versus a stakeholder email, each require different prompting strategies, just as they require different communication approaches in our daily work. And third, it is not guesswork. There are repeatable frameworks and proven patterns that produce consistent, high quality results. That is precisely what we are here to learn today. I would now like to introduce the CRAFT framework, the centerpiece of today's session. CRAFT is an acronym that stands for context, role, action, format, and tone. These 5 elements from a comprehensive checklist for constructing effective prompts. Think of it as a brief for an AI assistant. Much like a project brief you would prepare for a new team member. The more clearly and completely you fill in each element, the better the output you will receive. Over the next several slides, we will examine each component in detail with practical examples drawn from real project management scenarios. I encourage you to think about your own current project as we go through each element. Consider how you might apply these principles to a task you're working on this week. Let's begin with the letter C, which stands for context. So context is arguably the most important element of any prompt, and it is the one most frequently omitted. Consider the difference between these two prompts. On the left, we have a typical request, write a status report for my project. On the right, we have the same request enriched with the context. We specify the project type, the sprint number, what was accomplished, and what is behind schedule. The difference in output quality between these two approaches is dramatic. To help you provide thorough context, I have included a checklist on this slide. Before writing any prompt, ask yourself, have I included the project name, phase, and timeline, or any other background information? Have I identified the key stakeholders and their concerns? It is important. Have I mentioned recent milestones or blockers? And have I noted any relevant constraints or decisions? Taking 30 seconds to answer these questions before prompting will save you minutes or even hours of revision. The second element is role. When you assign a role to the AI, you are essentially calibrating its perspective, vocabulary, and depth of analysis. So on this slide, you can see 4 distinct roles, each of which produces meaningfully different output. A senior project management advisor will emphasize the strategic trade-offs and executive level recommendations. A technical writer will focus on clarity, structure, and documentation standards. A risk analyst will bring a systematic quantitative lens to identifying and mitigating risk. And a stakeholder coach will craft communications that are diplomatically sound and audience appropriate. An advanced technique noted in the pro tip at the bottom is to combine roles for more nuanced output. For example, act as a senior project manager with Agile certification, advising a junior team gives the AI both a seniority level and a methodology framework to work within. I encourage you to experiment with different role assignments and observe how substantially the output changes. The third element is action, and this is where specificity becomes paramount. On this slide, we have three examples showing the contrast between a vague action and a precise one. Notice the pattern. Each refined action includes not just what to do, but how many items to produce, what dimensions to evaluate, and what deliverables to include. Help risks become identified with top 5 risks. Rate each by probability and impact and suggest one mitigation per risk. Summarize the meeting becomes create a summary with decisions made, action items with owners, and unresolved questions. The principle here is straightforward. The more precisely you define the action, the less ambiguity the AI has to resolve on its own. Think of it this way. If you would not accept a vague brief from a team member, do not provide one to your AI tool. The fourth element is format, which defines the structure and shape of output you expect. This is deceptively powerful lever. The same content presented in different formats serves different purposes entirely. A bullet summary, 3 to 5 concise points, is ideal for quick team updates or Slack messages. A table or matrix format works best for comparisons, risk registers, or decision matrices. An executive brief, a single paragraph with key takeaways, is what your steering committee wants. And a step-by-step format is perfect for process documentation or onboarding guides. The key insight is this. If you do not specify a format, the AI will choose one for you, and it may not align with your audience's expectations or your communication channel. Always tell the AI exactly how you want the information presented. The final element of craft framework is tone, and this is where many project managers overlook an opportunity. As you can see in this table, different audiences require fundamentally different tones. For your executive team, you want to be concise, strategic, and data-driven. Lead with business impact. Keep it under 200 words. For your development team, be technical, direct, and actionable. Use DA terminology and focus on blockers and next steps. For external clients, adapt a professional, reassuring, and clear tone. Emphasize progress and solutions, and be diplomatically precise. And for cross-functional teams, keep it accessible and jargon-free. Explain context that specialists might take for granted. The prompt instructions in the right column give you ready-to-use language that you can incorporate directly into your prompts. Remember, the same project update written in the wrong tone for its audience can undermine confidence or create confusion, even if the facts are accurate. Now that we have covered the full craft framework, let's put it into practice with real-world project management scenarios. In the next 3 slides, I will walk you through complete prompt examples for 3 of the most common tasks project managers face: writing status reports, conducting risk assessments, and crafting stakeholder communications. For each use case, you will see all 5 craft elements applied together, giving you a template you can adapt for your own projects. I encourage you to pay attention not just to the content, but to how the 5 elements work together to create a comprehensive, unambiguous instruction. Let's begin with the status report, the bread and butter of project management communication. This slide shows a complete craft prompt for generating a weekly status report. Notice how the context section establishes the specific project, its phase, what was completed, and the current blocker. The role is defined as a PM advisor writing for a steering committee. This tells the AI both the expertise level and the audience. The action is precise. Draft a weekly status report covering progress, risk, next steps. The format specifies RAG status for each work stream and a summary table, a structure most executives expect and understand. And the tone sets clear parameters: executive, concise, factual, and solution oriented, with a 300-word limit. If you were to submit this prompt to an AI tool, you would receive a polished, board-ready status report in seconds. Compare that to the typical "write me a status report" prompt, and the difference becomes immediately apparent. Our second use case is risk assessment, which is one of the areas where AI can add the most value. In this example, we are deploying a new CRM system across 3 regional offices with over 500 users, and we have identified that change management training has not yet commenced despite a 6-week timeline to go live. The role is set to an experienced risk analyst for enterprise software rollouts. This ensures the AI draws on domain-specific knowledge. The action requests the top 8 risks, each assessed by probability and impact, with a mitigation strategy for each. The format is particularly important here: a risk register table with defined columns for risk, probability, impact, mitigation, and owner. This structured format makes the output immediately usable. You can paste it directly into your project documentation. And the tone is analytical and direct, with an emphasis on flagging critical risks prominently. This is an excellent example of how specifying format and action together produces output that requires minimal rework. Our third use case addresses stakeholder communications, which is arguably the area where tone matters most. In this scenario, we have received favorable news: budget approval at 15% above our original request. And we need to communicate this to C-suite stakeholders while managing expectations for the next quarter. Notice how the context captures not just the facts but the organizational dynamics, the CFO's specific concern about fund allocation, and the positive team morale. The role is a senior program manager communicating upward. This calibrates the AI for executive level gravitas. The action asks for complete email that celebrates the achievement, outlines the revised allocation, and sets forward-looking expectations. The format is tightly defined, 150 words maximum with an opening hook, 3 bullet points, and a clear next step with a date. And the tone is confident, appreciative, and forward-looking. No jargon. This level of specificity transforms a generic email draft into something you could send with minimal editing. We have now covered the foundational framework. For those of you who are ready to take your prompting to the next level, this section introduces advanced techniques that experienced prompt engineers use to handle more complex scenarios. These patterns build upon the craft framework and are particularly valuable when you are dealing with multifaceted decisions, recurring tasks that need consistency, or complex projects that require breaking down into manageable components. Let me introduce two of the most powerful advanced prompting patterns. The first is chain of thought prompting. Rather than asking the AI for a direct answer, you instruct it to reason through the problem step by step before arriving at a conclusion. This is particularly effective for complex trade-off decisions, multi-factor prioritization, and root cause analysis, precisely the types of challenges project managers face regularly. The prompt language is straightforward. Think through this step by step. First, analyze the constraints, then evaluate each option against our criteria, then recommend. The second pattern is few short examples, where you provide the AI with one or more examples of your desired output. This is invaluable when you need consistent formatting across multiple outputs, when you have a specific writing style to match, or when working in a specialized domain. By showing the AI what good looks like, you dramatically reduce the gap between what you expect and what you receive. Two additional patterns are worth noting as you develop your expertise. The first is iterative refinement. This is a mindset shift as much as a technique. Do not treat the first output as the final product. Instead, adapt a cycle of generate, review, refine, and finalize. Each iteration allows you to sharpen the output, adjust the level of detail, shift the emphasis, or correct any misunderstandings. The second pattern is prompt chaining, which is especially powerful for complex project management tasks. Rather than asking the AI to handle a large, multifaceted request in a single prompt, you break it into sequence of simpler, focused prompts and feed each output into the next. For example, you might start by gathering requirements, then identify risks from those requirements, then prioritize those risks, then draft mitigation plans, and finally review everything against your constraints. Each step is manageable and verifiable, and the final result is far more thorough than any single prompt could produce. Before we wrap up the instructional portion, let me highlight the 5 most common prompting mistakes I see project managers make. First, being too vague. If your prompt lacks specific numbers, constraints, or examples, the output will be generic. Always add specifics. Second, overloading a single prompt. When you try to accomplish too much in one request, quality suffers across the board. Break complex tasks into focused, sequential prompts. Third, providing no format guidance. If you do not tell the AI whether you want a table, bullets, or an email format, you are leaving a critical decision to chance. Fourth, accepting the first output without iteration. AI outputs are first drafts, not final products. Always review and refine. Ask the AI to revise, expand, or simplify as needed. And fifth, ignoring the audience. A status report for your development team and one for your steering committee should read very differently, even if they cover the same information. Always state who will read the output. If you can eliminate these 5 mistakes, you will immediately see a measurable improvement in your AI interactions. This slide serves as your takeaway reference for the CRAFT framework. So the context, here's the background. Role, act as a. Action, I need you to. Format, present this as. And tone, use a professional tone for executive readers. I want to leave you with the key message at the bottom of this slide. Great prompts produce great outputs. The 60 seconds you invest in crafting a well-structured prompt will save you hours of rework, revision, and frustration. I recommend keeping this framework visible at your desk or bookmarked in your notes. Within a few days of consistent practice, applying CRAFT will become second nature, and the quality of your AI-assisted work will improve dramatically. I hope this session has provided you with practical, immediately applicable tools for improving how you work with AI. My challenge to each of you is this. Pick one project management task this week, whether it is a status report, a risk assessment, a meeting summary, or a stakeholder email, and apply the full CRAFT framework to it. Observe the difference in output quality and then build from there. Thank you very much for your time and attention today. If you liked this training, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Thanks again.